Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's Removal of Doubts book. We are, a little bit over halfway through. It's been quite a journey. Okay, now let's continue deep diving in to what he's got to say. Alright. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the army of Allah will prevail by way of clear proofs, clear proofs and arguments of the tongue, just as they prevail by way of the sword and the spear. So, arguments of the tongue, the sword, and the spear. I said sphere. The author, may Allah be pleased with him, is suggesting here that the army of Allah is made up of His believing worshippers who support Allah and His Messenger and strive hard against the disbelieving people with two things. So striving hard against the disbelieving people. The first, evidences and proofs. And this is as it pertains to the hypocrites who do not make apparent their animosity towards the Muslims. These people are to be addressed with evidences and proofs. The second, those who are fought against with swords and spears, they are those who make their animosity apparent. They are the open disbelievers who announce their disbelief. Allah Azza wa Jal says concerning them, and those whom we mentioned before them, O Prophet, strive hard against the disbelievers and the hypocrites and be harsh with them, and their refuge is hell, and how wretched is that destination. Surah Al-Tahrim 66:9. So again, as I mentioned, there needs to be a lot of religious talks, khutbahs, to people who are spiritually lost, spiritually homeless, who have a pain that they need to get out. And a lot of fatherless youths and motherless youths in America are growing, and it's better for them to see the strength that Islam gives someone than for them to go towards the nihilism and cynicism of atheism. And dawah, educational videos of all kinds concerning Islam, testimonials, and people, just spreading things that they've learned and applied in their life of Islam and how beneficial it is, will definitely help us prevail against the disbelievers, inshallah. So apparently here we see hidden enemies and open enemies. Striving hard with proofs and evidences against the open disbelievers who make apparent their disbelief occurs first. Then they are to be fought with swords and spears after that. They should not be fought with swords and spears until having first established the argument against them. This is an interesting take because it gets at education, helping them to become aware. Because ignorance makes you blind, you just don't understand. And I think a lot of us American Muslim reverts understand that quite well, because America tells you abort your children, use drugs, get a high body count, rebel against your parents, and that's through the music, through Disney. There's so many things that if you actually start paying attention, you'd be like, that's not really healthy for kids to, be told. Don't tell your parents you're going to identify as the other gender, this, and that. And when you make videos pointing this out, YouTube usually takes them down, which shows you that they fear people actually being told the truth. So they don't want any arguments to be established against the occultists and the secular liberal hedonists. And so we have to always keep that up. Always keep that up. Now, I'm heavily shadow banned. Heavily. Like, Some of my views, some of the videos, like, I have 33 views and I got over 40k subs. Those type of analytics don't make sense. But what's fascinating is the more videos I make, the more censored I get. On Instagram, for example, 2,000 followers. I'll go on a post, see how many people it reached. It'll say 40. Never goes over 100. Right? Very rarely. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. On LinkedIn, I used to get 200 hits a post. Now it's down to just like 5 and 4, sometimes 1, sometimes none. And I have only about 80 people who follow me there, but it's fascinating. They don't even see it. So if you see the coordination between the liberals to suppress and silence people, it's intense, because they want you to just be like clickbait loud mouths. But when you start dropping knowledge, giving people a different way to think, showing proofs and evidences from Islam and how it changed your life, and talking about it, discussing it, then that's when they get mad. Because when you act wild and stupid, you know, like a midget twerking on a cop car, they're like, yes, bread and circuses. But when you're like, hey, you should stop drinking, and Islam tells you intoxicants are bad, let's go ahead and look at this, or modesty is good, don't act like Cardi B, oh, that's hate speech, you know, then they start getting you. You start, oh, you should consider being a stay-at-home mom. Oh, we want that tax revenue from her. Wage slave must go back to work. You're interrupting our commodification of her as a human being as a whole. Oh, you don't need to obsessed with plastic surgery and makeup. Oh, now you're getting into our profits. So now we have to do something about you. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting. Very fascinating. So, striving hard with proofs and evidences, so that people get educated and snapped out of that type of way of thinking, is important. And not everyone wants to let go of all that sin and debauchery and stuff. But the important thing is, on Judgment Day, they won't be able to say, no one told me. That's important. Because I grew up listening to rappers, BET, you know, all this MTV. It's utter garbage. Utter garbage. And later, as you become more spiritual and you're like, wow, and you have children and you're like, this crap was pumped out, and it's nearly impossible for a parent to regulate everything. So why is it even there in the first place? It's quite intense. You can have a whole conversation with it, right? And liberals will defend everything that's anti-religious till they go to the grave. Okay, you're never gonna make them change, but what you can do, I'd argue, is helping people who haven't fallen victim yet to liberalism see. That's why France is so afraid of Muslims. That France bans men from getting paternity tests on children. France is fine with the women being harlots and forcing men who are not the father to pay for a kid that ain't theirs. Right? It doesn't give men the right to know if that's their kid. Think about that. Think about it. How wicked that is. So, the secular Republic of France, however you want to frame them as, is truly disgusting. And if you look at Macron, who he married, like the teacher who probably touched him up when he was just young buck, and she's older than him, it's a super creepy relationship. You're like, you guys are weirdos. But getting truth to people now is getting harder and harder. But keep it up. A lot of people in lockdowns, they started getting more spiritual because they're like, wow, the government ain't your savior. So the atheists who bring the government and have these globalist philosophies, no. So our harshness, you know, keep it up. You should be harsh against like some influencers who keep pumping out stuff that is so damaging to families, to loyalty, that encourage fornication, adultery, abortions, crime, theft, we shouldn't be, too tolerant and too passive. You give the knowledge. Have patience to give the knowledge. But when they're like, hey, let us slang drugs over here. No, be harsh. Not gonna let you slang drugs in our community. Liberals, why legalize, tax, regulate all drugs, man? You don't have a right to tell people what to put in their bodies, man. Just tax everybody, and we can all have this socialist utopia, and kids can be taken care of by the government while their parents get high, and they can just go to a daycare all day. It's gonna be cool, man. No one needs a mom, no one needs a dad. Get you them benefits. It's like, what? And yes, there are people who say that. There are liberals who want to make all drugs legal, libertarians as well, and then thinking just taxing everything is gonna replace the family. So those people, they need a lot of the proofs from Islam. It is obligatory upon the Muslim Ummah that it responds to each and every weapon which is used to attack Islam. So every weapon which is used to attack Islam. So music is a weapon, right? Make videos, talk to people why they need to break free from music, right? Thug rap in your head, heavy metal, depressing emo songs, retarded pop songs. It's a weapon. It's bizarre. People crying at concerts for their favorite musician. It's just disgusting, And that's been discussed, but YouTube takes those videos down. So that's a weapon. Why does YouTube care if you make a video saying don't listen to music, and you're pointing out the imagery in someone's music video that is very apparent? It's really backwards, ain't it? If you make a video showing people how to be responsible gun owners, you're inciting violence. But if a gangster rap guy is using poor trigger control and he's pistol whipping some woman, well, now that's art and it's music and it's protected. Makes zero sense. Like, there's rap songs where guys are like, drink cough syrup and do this and do that and I slang money. That's allowed. But I just simply took a video of a giant Amanita muscaria mushroom that I came across. Didn't say anything. I was like, oh, look at this giant mushroom. It's huge, which was cool just because of the size of it. And they gave me a strike on my channel and said I was promoting narcotics. For a 20-second clip, I unboxed a camping survival knife to use for camping. And they said, that was a dangerous weapon. And they took it down. But you have horror films, you got all kinds of stuff. YouTube is all over the place. But anything they can do to weaponize the systems around us to stomp out decency and goodness according to an Islamic standard, they're going to try to take it out. So, it's crazy. And it says here, which is most appropriate. So, respond to the attacks on the Ummah in an appropriate manner. So, they're attacking modesty. Have more women talk about why they really value modesty, why Allah commands it on us, how the male gaze is just a thorn in the foot that goes away eventually. Like, there's so many things you can do, but they push it down. I mean, TikTok tries to get rid of it. You just gotta keep going. So whoever engages Islam armed with ideas and statements, then it is obligatory that his falsehood is made clear. So make the falsehoods clear with intellectual and logical arguments in addition to evidences from the book and the Sunnah. Whoever insults Islam economically, it is obligatory that Islam is well defended. Rather, the situation may even necessitate that an economic offensive is established, if that is possible, to the same extent to which they attack Islam. So, I mentioned this before. Self-reliance, parallel economy. So, Muslims supporting other Muslim businesses and genuine people, because some people could just be fake Muslims and then just infiltrate, right? And that doesn't mean you can't buy from a non-Muslim who sells a superior product. It means that you try to see if there's a superior product sold by a Muslim. See what I'm saying? Whoever assaults Islam, oh yes, and those who attack Islam with weapons, it is obligatory that their efforts are met with whatever is appropriate in opposition to their weapons. So, again, if Muslims are places of worship are being attacked, we should be able to fund security for people to go and pray in peace. You know, stuff like that. If we have a Muslim daycare should be protected. You know, like, there's so many things we can do. So many wonderful things we can do. Putting our minds together and figuring out ways to strengthen our ummah. It's very important. Okay, very important. So, I think a lot of people are putting their best foot forward. I try to lead by example rather than just say you should. I just do, and then someone's allowed to see. And I keep doing it, even though the views are held down. I've had live streams in the past where they were really high, and then I'll take a screenshot, and then a few hours later the views really went down. And you're like, how's that possible? You know? Or there'll be 5 people in the live stream and it'll shoot up to 200 and go back to down, and like, you're like, something fishy's going on here. But ad nauseum, a lot of people have talked about the shenanigans on YouTube, and people have done tests and seen, like, there's a lot out there if you're willing to do the research. And YouTube doesn't really hide that fact, right? So, the last Instagram is the worst. I mean, they constantly, even when I'm making a comment on a cooking video or a nature picture, Instagram will say I'm spamming, and it's like, I've only made 2 comments thus far for the entire day. And they'll be like, oh, we protect our community, and blah, 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 and like, they'll censor you, and you can't comment for a few hours. It's like, so it's a form of soft censorship on Instagram. Instagram will let you promote your OnlyFans, but for some reason my cooking content and the stuff I post for them is just so bad. But also that's also due to people using bot raids to mass flag stuff to trigger Instagram's crappy network, because they automate everything. And also people who work in Instagram who hate Muslims, who target different Muslims media pages, right? So all the assaults on Islam come in so many different directions, and Muslims have to work together to fortify our nets so that we can help have bridges of support to people who need it and who are genuine and who have plans and solutions and ideas that will benefit the Ummah. You know? What do you think? Excellent book as always. Okay? And remember, Imam Muhammad bin Salah al-Uthaymeen is the one doing commentary here. And if you'd like to join my blog and support the channel, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilhanArchive. Hope to see you there.